And welcome to our webinar, Lessons Learned, Pandemic Response and Recovery Prep from an Essential Employer, featuring Dan Turner, CIO for Permar Security Services. Hi, Dan. The Quad Cities Chamber welcomes to be your one-stop business resource to assist during the coronavirus pandemic, connecting you to reliable and accurate information. There's a lot of new information to process these days during these rapidly changing and uncertain times. And the Quad Cities Chamber is here for you, advocating on your behalf at the federal and state levels. We are committed to bringing you the latest information as quickly as possible. And we do have a COVID resource page on our website, quadcitieschamber.com, that is updated several times a day. If you haven't signed up for your e-news, you can do that on our website as well, and we will get through this together. Joining us today is Dan Turner. Welcome, from Permar Security Services. He serves as the Chief Information Officer and has been with Permar Security for more than 20 years. In this role, Dan leads all aspects of information technology, information security, data, and analytics. He also supports the growth of Permar Security's businesses through IT and analytics-related revenue-generating solutions. He graduated from St. Ambrose University with a bachelor's degree in communications and computer science. And we'd like to thank Dan for presenting today. We will take questions from participants, so make sure you get those entered into the box, and we'll try to get those questions answered throughout the presentation today. The webinar will be recorded and posted on the Chamber website for those who would like to catch it again or share it with colleagues. So now I would like to turn it over to Dan. Welcome. Thanks for coming today.
Well, thanks, Julie. Julie and the Chamber reached out to Permar a few weeks ago to ask us to share our story as we navigate through these unprecedented times. So over the next 20-25 minutes, I'm going to share our planning processes, some of the lessons learned so far from not only our firm, but I network out with technologists both in the Quad City metro area and across the country. So I'm going to share some of those best practices that we've learned. And then I'm also going to talk about our current plan, if you will, of how we're going to return from this pandemic and as we move our workforce from work from home back into the office, and some of those plans. And then finally, I'd be remiss if I didn't also share some IT tips and some security trends that we see out there that maybe some of you guys will see value in. So a quick history as we get to rocking and rolling here. Permar was founded in 1953. We're the largest family-owned full-service security firm in the Midwest. We're a full-service security provider, so we provide security solutions for home and business. Includes over 2,000 uniformed security officers. A lot of innovation around the smart home, thermostats and lights and talking refrigerators, if you will. Burglar and fire alarms, access control, CCTV, and background and pre-employment screening. So those are all the services that we offer across 25 branch offices in 28 states, right? So we have 75,000 locations that we service at the end of the day. So that's a little bit of background about what Permar does, the infrastructure we support, and then also what we had to plan for in this response. So a little rewind. Julie shared with you that I've been with Permar for over 20 years, which means that I was around when the terrorist attack on 9/11. A couple of our big takeaways on those days were disaster response, right? So those were the buzzwords out there in the business landscape to make sure that your business was prepared for a disaster. And so we went about after the 9/11 terrorist attacks and started putting together our disaster response plan. So the first things that we sort of tackled were, mitigating natural disaster, fires, power outages, and system failures, right? And so that means, hey, if your computers fail, stuff like that. But also, as I was reviewing my notes for this thing, it also we covered, hey, in case, what happens if we shred the wrong file cabinet? So back in the day, all of our contracts are still paper. So we were still sending contracts out to customers, filling them out that way. And that's how those are the assets of our organization. So the other big takeaway that we had out of the 9/11 response was digital transformation, automating our workflows, and getting our data out of filing cabinets and stuff like that. So those were our two big takeaways as we responded to the 9/11 disaster. The notable thing that was not in our disaster recovery plan in 2001 was any mention of pandemic, right? So we, again, we were focused on tornadoes and floods and stuff like that. In 2003, our first client came to us and asked us, hey, what are you going to do if SARS comes across the Atlantic or the Pacific and invades the United States? And so we were like, we had no idea. So we met a leadership team and said, well, what are we supposed to do? So we went to the CDC's website, copied and pasted what their response was, sort of tweaked it to meet our business needs, and that was our pandemic response. Things changed rapidly, though, for us in 2009, 2010. The H1N1 virus hit, infected quite a few of our employees, right? So we had employees missing shifts because they were sick. Our call centers were impacted with our employees getting infected. And so we dusted off our SARS response plan and took a look at it and updated it, right? So that's where we first started talking about PPE, masks, gloves, hand sanitizer, right? It also made us take a look at our work environments, right? At that point in time, we were still, our call centers were still sharing mice and keyboards. There were no dividers between our agents. And so we went about taking steps to remedy that, right? The first and easy one was everybody had their own mouse and keyboard, right? Disinfectant wipes became mandatory. Up until that point, we had disinfectant wipes out and employees were encouraged to wipe down their stations and stuff like that, but not mandatory. As H1N1 hit, it became mandatory, both pre-shift and post-shift. In 2014, we did some remodeling around our offices, and we started putting in protective barriers, right? So now all of our employees were sort of in their own little bubbles and really knock down, the spread of virus through cough and stuff like that. So we've been taking mitigation steps, since 2001. We've been sort of just, our plans evolve every year. We sit down and take a look at our response plans every year, put in new tips and tricks, best practices that we've learned. Permar is a big believer in sharing best practices. And so as we go out and network with other companies, how this construction firm over here is doing something, or another security firm is doing something, we steal those ideas, we incorporate it into our culture and our business plans, and we institutionalize it. So that brings us to 2020, and as the COVID virus hit, we sort of, early January, February, we were talking about it, mostly joking, really. And then it started getting serious. And so we started taking a look at our PPE stock. What do we have out there in the branches? What does our plan call for? And so out of the H1N1 stuff, we have masks and gloves in all of our branch offices for employees to use out on site. And so, we still got gloves, we got masks. I think we're in good shape. So, as this thing unfolds, we're feeling pretty confident. Well, we really weren't prepared for the mass shutdown of the entire economy, right? So we were a little shorthanded on PPE at the end of the day. So real quick before you dive into that, here was our progression of responses, right? So as January, February hit, it's sort of a joke. Early March, our statements gets a lot more serious. We start taking an inventory of our PPE stock. On March 13th, we sort of meet as a senior leadership team and say, okay, hey, this stuff's getting real. States are talking about, only essential businesses being able to move, everybody staying at home and stuff like that. What are we going to do? So we came up with a formalized plan, took a look at what our IT infrastructure sort of looked like, what our business infrastructure looked like, how we're going to respond, what our clients were looking for, and so on. So as we worked through that decision-making process, on the 17th of March, we formally announced to our employees what our plan was going to be, how we're going to phase out all of our call center agents, all of our accounting and HR, finance, and stuff like the marketing, get them all out of the buildings, working from home in a organized fashion. So we walked through that. And so starting on the 17th is when we announced it. By the end of the day on March 24th, we had transitioned to almost 800 people working at home. To put that in context, on a given day, we have about we have usually 80 to 100 people working remote on any given day. And, by the end of the 24th of March, we had over 800 people working at home. The interesting thing for us, though, is that we still have 2,000 employees almost reporting to post on any given day, right? So Those are our uniformed security officers that are going out protecting hospitals, critical infrastructure, manufacturing facilities, commercial customers that are still open for business that need our services. And so we had to put together a plan to protect them as well. So we've been in mad scramble mode, procuring PPE equipment and hand sanitizer. Those are the big ones that are in mass shortages out there. So we've been right along with everybody else trying to procure that and protect our employees. But they're still reporting for duty. We've actually seen an increase in business on that side of the house, asking for our services to do temperature checks for other businesses that are open now, and facilities that are closed, making sure that bad guys aren't doing stupid things. So we still got guards out there patrolling empty warehouses and closed businesses, making sure those assets stay safe. So huge challenge for us as an organization, keeping our employees, balancing the business needs and keeping our employees safe. And we're navigating the best that we can. I can say, some of our lessons learned there is not having enough PPE and hand sanitizer. We've been buying the hand sanitizer from Mississippi Distillery by the bucketfuls, and we have a small assembly team here still making hand sanitizer, filling up vials and sending them out to all of our 25 offices on a weekly basis for sure. Most weeks, twice a week, we're filling, making hand sanitizer. We've had employees step up, just internal employees that had 3D printers at home that are printing up hand shields for our technicians on one side and then guards on the other side. So making sure that we have that. Just recently, we've gotten a mass shipment of face masks in, and so we've now distributed those out and still working with our suppliers to procure more PPE. But that was definitely something that as we continue to navigate this thing, that acquiring that gear is still pretty tough. So a couple of the other lessons learned that we learned as we've gone through this deal. Oops. Sorry about that. Computer jumped on here. So some collaboration and communication was one of the challenges that we faced, right? So we've been in business since 1953, and we still communicated that way for all intents and purposes. We have a robust IT infrastructure with 25 offices throughout the Midwest, but we still did most of our business face to face, right? So we talked to folks. Let me get back here. There we go. Sorry about that. So most of our meetings still took place face to face. Our management philosophy was, you need to be in the building, and we need to talk to you. We need to see you actively working. And so as we moved from 50 people working remote on a given day to moving everybody to a work from home environment, presented some unique challenges from communication and collaboration. Right. The first one that we really needed to tackle was some sort of agreement between both Permar and our employees going from home. Most of the folks that we moved to work from home were hourly employees, so we didn't want to run into any kind of labor and wage issues down the road. So we wanted to have a formal policy that let our hourly employees know what their expectations were and what they could expect from Permar. So so everybody was playing or singing from the same sheet of music. And so getting that policy in place actually took a couple days. We got it formalized. We got it all out to our people that were going to work from home. So having a formal telework agreement and policy in place ahead of time probably would have made our job a lot easier as we spun this thing up. But we were able to rapidly put one in place and stuff like that. One of the other challenges that we had was a good collaboration tool, right? So again, most of our day-to-day happenings just happen. You'd walk from one cube to another, an office to another, and that's how we sort of collaborated. Well, now everybody's stretched all over God's green earth. You couldn't collaborate that well. So we spun up Microsoft Teams very, very rapidly and have had great success using that tool, and keeping our teams engaged, sharing documents, being able to collaborate on documents and stuff like that. And then just like everybody else on this call, Zoom has become part of our mantra. We use a couple different video collaboration tools to communicate with folks on, but everybody's getting more and more comfortable working over video, where 6 weeks ago everybody hated video calls, would refuse to be on video calls. Now it's become part and parcel. Everybody's gotten used to it. So, and another little nifty little tool that we found out there was a little app called Crisp. So as you're sitting on conference calls, especially with the kids from home from school nowadays, and the background noise and the dog and stuff like that, that little app really does help knock down all that chatter. So Again, the big tool thing for us was making sure our customers didn't realize that we had gone from, working in corporate offices to working from kitchen tables. And I think that right now the feedback we get is people can't tell. So we were able to spin out, work from home, work in a professional manner, and then our end customers are still been engaged with our sales teams, with our customer care teams, our monitoring center, and they have no idea that they're not calling into a Permar office, right? So a couple of the challenges that we had as we spun out quickly and moved everybody to work from home was printing, scanning, delivery of postal mail, right? So printing was a big challenge for us. We've come up with like 16 different Band-Aids to fix that. One of the challenges we had was we're on a managed print contract, actually. So any of you out there that are on managed print contracts, I would suggest you talk to your vendors of providing that service and talk about discounts or rebates or something along those lines, because as everybody spun out, nobody's using the managed assets that are under contract. So much like the car insurance companies are issuing rebates on car insurance because nobody's driving. It's something to look at if you're in a managed print agreement to see if there's some sort of rebate or something that you can negotiate out. Scanning, we come up with a couple different solutions. Getting mail moved around and getting, vendors don't want to be paid, so you have a lot of AP invoices coming in and stuff like that. So we've come up with a couple of different solutions depending on what phone that you use. If you're an Android user, there's that little app right there called Cam Scanner that you can use that will take a picture of a document, turn it into a PDF, and you can forward that around. If you're on an iOS device, we share with some folks nifty little tool built into iOS that you just go into Notes, you hit the little camera button, you take the picture, it's going to ask if you want to scan it as a document. You say yes, boom, iOS turns it into a PDF for you. So those are some nifty little tools out there to deal with scanning and mail delivery and stuff like that. I think that as this pandemic goes on, we'll come back as a leadership team and tackle some of these specific issues here to clean up these processes so we can be a little bit more agile. I think we stubbed our toe on a couple of these things and we weren't quite prepared for that. But again, we're very much a lessons learned type company. So we always think we can get better and faster. And I think some of these things, some of those areas right there between collaboration and printing and scanning, I think are areas that we can work on going forward. I'll touch on cybersecurity issues on the next couple slides, because I think there's lots of lessons learned that I learned just researching what's going on out there in the world of cybersecurity. And then, like I said, from some of the other technology leaders, both here in the QC metro area and across the country, that they've really stubbed their toes on that. I think that some takeaways from this call, you can go back, do a quick assessment, see if those issues are in your environment, and just double check. And then the last thing I want to make a note on is Quick Assist. This is a little tool that our IT team found. Again, as everybody's students have spun up and are learning from home, and their spouses are working from home, we have a really customer-centric IT team. And so we've been fielding quite a few calls that, hey, my kid's computer's not working, we can't get into Zoom, or a lot of the school districts are using SharePoint online, and they're having challenges with that. And so instead of us having to try and muddle through and walk through screens and stuff like that, we can use this little built-in tool inside of Windows. Windows 10, you just type in Quick Assist, and it pops up a little tool that allows remote users to access that desktop. So you can get right in and help out. So I know my team's helped out quite a few students here in the Davenport School District as they spun up and went to work from home. They were using home computers and stuff like that were having some challenges, and we're able to help them out without a high level of frustration or mom or dad having to bring their computers into us. We're able to do it all remotely. So that Quick Assist is a nice little built-in tool that most folks don't know about when it comes to Windows 10. So a couple of security tips for you sitting out there. I know we've all seen the COVID-19 scams and the stimulus credential theft stuff. I think the Chamber had a good article on it not too long ago that's worth following up on. The one I wanted to focus in on was, we're all on a Zoom call right now, is that there's a high degree, since the end of March, beginning of April, video conferencing scams and phishing attacks have been very, very prevalent, right? So again, as all of America's gone to work from home, video calls have been become commonplace. And so bad guys are looking to use these attack vectors to steal credentials, distribute malware, and just take advantage of the situation. I was going to highlight just two quick ones real quick that they're just so easy to fall victim to. You get this email on the left here that said, hey, you missed a Zoom call. Click here. On the right-hand screen is a fake website that you would get to. Looks just like Zoom's login page. You throw your email and password in there. You hit submit. It actually passes those credentials onto Zoom and logs into the Zoom platform. So you think nothing of it, but just in a heartbeat, you just got phished. And I don't know how many of you are using your same email address and same type of password to get into Zoom as you do your corporate assets and stuff like that. But now your credentials has been phished, and these bad guys out here are pretty sophisticated on trying to figure out how to use that in an attack vector against your organization. So, and it's so simple to fall victim to this. So just, to reiterate to your end users, hey, be smart about what you're clicking on, double check it, really look at the URL you're landing on. I think goes a long way. Anonymous prevention goes a long way here. And then this one I wanted to bring up real quick on malware delivery. So this, if you follow through on this attack vector, this actually ends up installing a remote control software on the end target. And the thing that I thought was unique about this malware delivery, again, is if you look at the email on the left, it just talks about, hey, listen, we can't meet in person. Can we do it over a Zoom call? Here's some information that we need to cover. And it's very targeted, right? So these campaigns are very, very small. They're passing through the big filters that are sitting out there on Google and the rest of the cloud providers. So they're very, very targeted. They're targeting companies that have money, right? Transportation companies, manufacturing, technology companies. They're very, very targeted, very small in scope. And so that is something, again, just be careful what you're clicking on and be aware, because again, this one remote controls into a computer, drops the software, and now that asset's compromised, right? So real quick,
just want to remind people, if you have any questions, if you want to start putting those into the Q&A box, because I'm sure Dan he's got some really good lessons learned here. So if you want to get some more information on any of that or pose a question to him, you can go ahead and enter those now. Thanks.
Yep, and just wrapping up here real quick, couple of security tips for you. And these are from lessons learned from some of my cohorts that are out there in the Quad City metro area that stumbled on some of these things. I know in a rush, especially in the state of Illinois, there was a big rush to work from home. If you weren't an essential employee, you just had to get out of the office. And there was a mad rush to just take your corporate computer and go home, plug it into your Wi-Fi, plug it in your network, and we'll get you RDP access or something like that. And so those first 2 points tied in together for an attack, and I know that happened here in the Quad Cities, that they opened up RDP just to get their employees home. Their corporate asset wasn't patched very well. When they plugged it into the person's home network, the home network was already compromised with some malware, and the corporate asset wasn't patched well, and the malware jumped from home computer to the corporate asset, and then you're RDPing in and created some mass havoc for this company, right? So they really presented some problems for them. So a couple of key tips there is, if you just enable RDP, make sure you did it securely. That's the #1 attack vector out there for bad guys to take advantage of organizations. And in the mad dash to get everybody working from home, I know quite a few firms just enabled RDP to make their workers work, right? And then make sure your stuff's patched. And then that middle one is something that we witnessed here at Permar with some of our key vendors. We were getting some weird emails coming in from key vendors in there saying, hey, because of the COVID response, we've changed our banking information. Here's our new routing and bank numbers. Please start sending payments for invoices for this. Good thing for us is we have some change controls in place. So it just isn't a simple AP clerk that gets it and puts in the new bank information into our accounting systems. But if you don't have those controls in place and the wrong person gets it and they're sitting at home, instead of being able to just walk into the controller's office and say, hey, is this normal? Or can we do this? They might just take advantage of it and do it. So again, having some change control on how you change banking information and stuff like that for vendors, I think is critical to be thinking about, and just have it doesn't have to be a super elaborate policy, but just some sort of change control in place for that. So.
Hey Dan, what's RDP? I'm not a total tech person, so.
Oh, sure, it's remote desktop protocol. So it's built into Windows. It'll let you remote control into different resources.
Okay,
so,
well, I appreciate that. That's okay. And you know what? You gave us a lot of good tips here, and I always appreciate. I've always said I would love to have my own technology Sherpa at my side every day to give me all these tips and tricks because it's just not
Right?
my world.
Yeah.
So
Don't click on this, click on that. Don't do this, don't do that. Yeah, I get you.
exactly, exactly.
And so real quick, on my last slide here here's our tentative return to work plan. Right now, I know we're in Scott County. We're still in lockdown until the 15th of May, sounds like by the governor. Our plan right now is a return to work after Memorial Day. So we feel that we want to not have to do this twice. So we'll err on the side of caution and sort of wait this thing out and return a couple weeks after the all clear bells rang. So that's sort of what our thing is. It's going to be a phased-in approach. We'll bring in some we won't bring in full departments right away. We'll sort of just trickle them in. We are probably going to do temperature checks and surveys as our people are walking in, making sure, you know, we sort of run through that. We want to make sure we have plenty of hand sanitizer available around the buildings to make sure everybody's safe and secure from that standpoint. We have already relaxed some of our attendance policies, just so if you are sick, you stay home and then you don't got to worry about being penalized for that or anything like that. And then the last thing that we're really exploring, both on just a business common sense approach and as a service that we might end up selling, is touchless access control. So again, contamination from door handles and stuff like that is one of the key transmission points. So we're exploring all those things for our facilities and as a service. So.
Just in your experience at Permar, you touch a lot on the PPE and the lack of availability. Do you have a guide? So you said you have about, what, 800 employees? Are all of those employees you're providing PPE for all of them? And I guess my question is, when you do make that order, are you figuring that you're going to order 3, 5 masks per person? Is it every day? What's the turn on that per employee that you're ordering for?
Sure. So actually we have 3,000 employees just about. So we have 800 working from home and over 2,000 out on post. And so this last go around, I think we got 10,000 masks in, and we issued 3 masks to every frontline employee right now. And we've asked them to rotate them through the course of the week. And there's some daylight sanitation, you trying to use UV, no microwaves or anything like that, but just air them out and stuff like that. And so right now we really are in the recycle mode. Is you got them, just cycle, here's 3 masks, cycle them through the week, hold on to them. And once we get a bigger stash, we're going to try and replenish those. But they are a mix of disposable masks and reusable masks. So we're sourcing them from every vendor you can imagine.
Okay. Well, that's helpful. Trent says, great presentation. Thanks much. And so we don't have any other questions at the moment, but I know you've got some good information in your slides and certainly reference to some of those technology solutions like CRISP. I had no idea. I could have used that as I had my Teams app up and you heard all that pinging. So we're using the Teams. I just haven't figured out how to turn off my chime. So CRISP probably would have helped with that. So we appreciate that. But we will send out information after the webinar today, and we want to thank everybody for joining us today. You can always go to quadcitieschamber.com to check out resources that we have. We'll be keeping you up to date on social media as well. And so we want to thank Dan today for joining us and providing us with some really valuable information. We appreciate you and Permar taking the time to do that. Thank you so much.
You bet. Thank you.
Okay. Have a great day. We'll see everybody soon.